Hey guys, if you're watching this today, Friday, November 27th, the day I posted it, I want to let you guys know we hit 20,000 subscribers today. And to celebrate, we're going to have have a couple beverages on a live stream tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. I hope to see you guys then. It's one of the most famous boats on YouTube, and it's out there cruising right now. Its quirky and innovative design features give it a huge cult following. When the founder died in 2005, he donated 92% of his shares in the company to his employees. We are, of course, talking about the daddy of the modern cruising boat, Amel. This Everything You Need to Know series is brought to you by patrons. These are people that give a couple of bucks an episode to keep this YouTube channel growing and improving. If you want to help out, hit patreon.com/LadyKSailing. And this week, a big shout out to 4 new patrons. Awesome. Tom and Tracy, Laszlo, David, and Charles. Love you guys. Thank you for joining. Henry Amel, at the time a Renaissance fighter in La Resistance, watched as Allied troops arrived in France during World War II and noticed they used floating caissons made out of a polyester resin. What is this lightweight and extremely strong material, he thought, so he used it when he started building boats. His first boat was the Super Mistral 23. The design was just a little trailerable sloop with room inside to sit down and eat, but it was so good that some 350 of them were actually built. Not bad for Amel's first stab at making a sailboat. Despite the success of the Super Mistral, however, the already struggling boat business that Amel had purchased and taken over to build his 23-footer eventually did fail, and Henry Amel found himself back at square one. Not to be discouraged, though, and forced out of the sailboat game forever, Amel started building boats for someone else in La Rochelle, France, and in 1965 he had worked up the inertia to split off on his own, and he founded Chantiers Amel, again, though he was slapped down by a fire this time in 1967, and it burned everything to the ground. But again, Amel recovered and pushed forward, and by 1973, Chantiers Amel was a business that was thriving and profitable. One thing a lot of people don't know, though, is Henry Amel was almost completely blind for most of his career. He was injured by shrapnel in the war, so how's that for overcoming everything life could possibly throw at you? The Amel company was known for small production numbers and only producing one model at a time. The lineup included the Meltem Mango, Super Maramu, and the Amel 54. You may have seen that particular model. As well, they made smaller boats like the Kirk, the Fango, Euro Sharky, and the Baby Maramu. And I call it Baby Maramu because it's not the Super Maramu. Henry Amel led a truly inspiring life, and he definitely left his mark on the sailing world forever. Henry actually passed away, though, in 2005, but when he did, he left 92% of his shares in the company to his employees. Well done, sir. Well done. It's obviously no secret that Henry Amel loved his employees and they loved him. They even nicknamed him Le Capitaine. And although he didn't actually start building boats or start the company until he was 50 years old, he stayed at the helm until well into his 90s, and over 2,000 boats were produced. Henry loved to innovate too, and at times came up with quirky features that the whole sailing industry just really hadn't thought of yet. Things like electric motors to furl the sails, electric winches, things to make it easier to be short-handed or for couples to go cruising together. Bow thrusters were just standard equipment, hard-top dodgers, center cockpits, captain's chairs, even solid stainless steel rails around the boat instead of lifelines. Maybe it's because he was almost completely blind, but his emphasis when he was building these boats was really heavily on safety while at sea. Henry Ford is famous for saying, when he was building the Model T, that you can have it in any color that you want, as long as it's black. And it sort of revolutionized the automotive industry. It made him able to stamp out more cars more quickly because they were all the same. And Amel actually brought this to the sailing world when he started building his boats. When you bought one of his boats, you weren't presented with a big long list of options or interior cushion and curtain colors. You simply got what he made, and that was an end of it. The one-size-fits-all didn't end there. On the bigger boats, you also got things like a generator, electric windlasses, a water maker, and a washing machine and a dryer. But with the downside of this one-size-fits-all, obviously you can't make everybody happy, there is an upside. You see, when the factory installs the same thing in every boat, they get really good at it, and everything becomes more reliable. You're not just doing one-off jobs or anything like that. Every boat gets the same wiring diagram, the same wiring schematics, the same wiring harness, and they get really good at putting all these things in, so it becomes more reliable, like the Model T. Amel also stuck with the same design over all the models and all the years, which I would argue the look is very much function over form. I don't find them particularly beautiful or pretty, but every line and every curve seems to serve a function. Everything's exactly where it's intended to be when they built the boat, and then the looks are sort of like an afterthought, and to be honest with you, I'm okay with it. New designers, after Henry died, named James Barrett and Oliver Recupo, took the reins, and they're now designing the Amels like the 55 and of course their new monster flagship, the 64, which is something to behold. It's one heck of a sailboat. To compare Amel though to the other big dogs out there, like say Bavaria or Beneteau, I feel like it's apples and oranges, and it wouldn't do Amel justice to make the comparison. They really are in a league of their own. For example, Amel is famous for building ketches, and that was Henry Amel's decision because he thought ketches were easier for a couple, married couple for example, to actually handle the boat well under sail. The ketch is more balanced, and everything works a little bit better once you're up and under sail. So it's sort of in a league of its own, and I think Henry actually had a point. You also won't find Henry putting in fold-down transoms or twin helms. Amel isn't the luxury brand of the sailing world, though the brand certainly isn't an uncomfortable brand. The boats are spectacular, very well equipped, and very comfortable to actually go cruising on. I'd say at this point, anyone who watches sailing channels on YouTube has a lot of knowledge and experience with Amel via Delos. And Delos is one hell of a sailboat, but I do have a little bit of personal experience that goes beyond the whole Delos of it all. When I was cruising down the eastern seaboard, I saw my first Amel, a Super Marimute in Sandy Hook, New Jersey, and of course I jumped in the dinghy to go take a look. Then I saw another Amel anchored right beside Lady K in Chesapeake City. Then 4 or 5 more Amels in Annapolis, not to mention all the Amels I saw in the Bahamas. You know, for 2,000 boats that they've made, I feel like I've seen quite a number of them at this point. I actually also got to tour the new Amel 55 at the Annapolis Boat Show, and wow, my first time inside I was instantly familiar with the layout and everything and the feel of the boat because I watched Delos, and they really don't change anything on these boats. So I was already it was ingrained in my mind. And what I didn't realize, and sort of culture shock for me, was the boat was a lot smaller than I thought it would be. You see, us YouTube sailing channel people, we tend to use wide angle cameras like the GoPro when we film the inside of our boats, and it really gives the impression that our cabin space is a lot bigger than it actually is. So when I walked into the new Amel, I was really shocked because it was smaller than I thought it would be, but it didn't bug me all that much. When I started exploring this, which is truly a beautiful boat, when I started exploring it, as I mentioned earlier, Amel is famous for their quirky, one-off, weird innovations, and there's one that hit me really, really hard, and maybe it's because of my personal experience with crab pots, but when I entered the aft cabin, or the master bedroom, if you will, if you walk to the back and you actually lift up the master mattress and then open the locker, you will find a circle glass see-through window in the bottom of the hull, right above, guess what? the propeller. So, do you need to check your anode? No problem. Do you think you picked up a stray line with the prop? Look through the prop window under the mattress. It's brilliant. I absolutely love it. It's these little things and attention to detail that really lit me up about that boat. I absolutely fell in love when I was walking through it, because that's one of the many things that they do that you kind of go, why doesn't everybody do that? So if Beneteau is sort of the fancy Cadillac of the cruising boats, then I would call Amel more of a Land Rover. Everything you need to go anywhere you want to go. Okay, so we know Amel is amazing, but as always on this channel, we have to talk about the downside of the brand. And while I can rave on and on and on about how much I love these boats, I do have a little bit of a beef with them. When I set out to go cruising, my mantra was sort of stolen from Lynn and Larry Party, and may Larry rest in peace, God bless his salty soul. The mantra was, go small, go simple, go now. And what this means to me in the cruising realm is sailing life doesn't need to be complicated. Seeing the world and meeting extraordinary people and waking up in extraordinary places watching the sunrise doesn't need to be expensive. And while Amel is certainly a capable boat, it can go anywhere in the world, as Brian and Brady have proved on Delos, it sure is a complicated boat. I outfitted Lady K extensively for cruising, from solar and water catchment, composting head, a full rewire of every system on the boat, inverted power, but I also did it in the simplest way it could possibly be done. Short wire runs, simple batteries, a lack of anything that wasn't completely necessary. Amel is sort of the opposite of that. Winches have electric motors, furlings have electric motors, a big generator, sophisticated engine, multiple fridges and freezers, multiple air conditioning units. I feel like Lynn and Lara Party would see this boat at the dock and say, hey, nice boat, but then they would keep on walking in the other direction. And I'm tempted to sort of feel the same way. While all these creature comforts certainly make cruising easier and more enjoyable, you either need an engineering degree to keep up with the maintenance, or a very big cruising budget to pay other people to keep up with the maintenance. Now, I'm not knocking the brand. I mean, I love these boats. That's obvious. What I'm saying is, you have to be a very specific kind of sailor to actually want one. Your upfront purchase budget has to be high enough, because these boats are not cheap. You also have to shy away from the pure luxury of other boats, like Beneteau or Bavaria, that are in the same market for the same price, because you want something a little bit more rugged, a solid cruiser. And you have to be capable of repairing some very high maintenance and sophisticated systems. Do you know what a salt environment does to electric motors, and how quickly it does it? And how many electric motors are on an Amel? It's unreal. Or you have to have a big budget to have it serviced and repaired. And then you also have to stick to countries and harbors that have repair facilities capable of handling the problems that you're going to face, and you will face them with one of these things. So if you are in that very narrow sort of part of the sailboat buying population, then yes, Amel makes perfect sense. And Brian of Delos certainly is in that group. God bless him, he's amazing. He'd shy away from the luxury production boat in favor of something purpose-built and rugged enough to go anywhere. He's brilliant mechanically, and he had the means to buy a $500,000 boat when he set out to buy one. The Amel truly is the perfect boat for him, and I really couldn't imagine him on anything else. And I also think that he is truly the perfect captain to be on an Amel. Really. In fact, on anything else, I don't think the Delos saga would be as lovable as it is. Like if Brian was on a Oceanus 55 or something, I don't think I'd love it as much. But because he's on an Amel, he's who he is, and that boat is what it is, it really makes a perfect match for me. I think that not all of us may want an Amel, but all of us can certainly appreciate one. P.S. Brian, I love you, bro. Brady, love the new channel. Yosha, if you're still single, love you guys. I will see you next week for another episode of Everything You Need to Know. Bye.